The Weeknd dropped his final album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, to conclude his discography. And in this video, I'm going to be giving it a review and talking through what I thought about the album and whether it lived up to the hype or not. The album was received pretty well in general. I'm seeing really good reviews. In fact, a lot of people are saying it's his best work. A lot of people are saying it's probably going to be album of the year for 2025. So I think he can be pretty happy with the reviews that he's got. Obviously, we'll see in time what numbers this album does in the long run, but it's looking pretty good for him in terms of this long list of albums that he's done. This looks like a strong entry. Abel always puts out a good level, and you always expect crazy numbers to go with his albums. So obviously, there's a lot riding on this. He didn't want to disappoint everyone, but yeah, it's looking good for him. So in a minute, I'll go through every track and just what I think about it and what the best parts of this album were and the lesser parts of the album. But first, I'll just talk about my expectations for this album. I made a video already about the rollout to this album to start with and everything leading up to this and the promotional aspect. I do think while this album is fantastic, spoiler alert, it's very good. I do think that the run up to this album and the decisions that was made didn't actually sell it or build up the hype that they could have. It doesn't really matter too much because in the end we got a fantastic project and that's all that really matters. But I think in terms of selling it and building hype and potentially getting the numbers up, I feel like the tactics were a bit bizarre. And I said that in my last video. Some people were a little bit worried about this. They weren't massive on the singles. I like the singles, but I got to admit I didn't know what to expect from this project. I knew it was going to be good, but the question was, would it live up to the kind of levels that we're used to from the Weeknd? And I would say, like, he put up a fantastic album, and there's definitely no disappointment from the album, other than the fact that it's all over now and we're not going to get any music from him as the Weeknd. My main worry leading up to this album was how many songs he'd already showcased and kind of leaked and teased. He did this Sao Paulo show many months ago now, showing around what at the time seemed like a dozen songs. And there was a potential that he was going to release an album where most of the songs had been in some way showed to us in small amounts. The idea of that was really concerning. But luckily, when the day came, we got a lot of new songs that we hadn't heard before, and it lived up to the expectations. Three of the songs that we knew about didn't even reach the album, and I'm not even sure if we're going to get them in their entirety. So, Runaway wasn't on the track list. This is obviously going to be on a deluxe version of the album, so no worries to anyone that liked that song, but that would have fit in well on the album, so I'm not sure why that didn't make the cut. But we'll get that song anyway. In Heaven, Everything is Fine. Again, that didn't get added to the album. I'm not even sure if that will make the deluxe, but hopefully it does. And the most bizarre omission from this album was Dancing in the Flames. The lead single for the album didn't even make it on there. And there's different rumours as to why that was the case. I was surprised about it. And any songs getting cut from the album, I wasn't against because at the end of the day, I just wanted new songs. I wanted as many as we could get. So losing songs that I knew would get down the line or in Dancing in the Flames we already had. I wasn't too annoyed about that. And Dancing in the Flames wasn't really received that well considering it's a lead single. It's a decent song, but they really missed the mark on it, I think, in terms of putting it as the main single. There's a few reasons as to why people think that this was left off the album. Some thought it was just because of the numbers, and even if Abel liked it himself, because it wasn't the best received, he wanted to leave it out of the album. I don't believe that at all because it's a 22 track album. I don't believe that a few disappointing numbers would make him leave out the leading single. Weird rumour is that he pulled it because of the LA fires, which, as bizarre and stupid as that sounds, it probably is likely because he removed the posts on his Instagram about this single while he kept it up on Spotify. I would imagine that had something to do with it, which is just absolute nonsense in my opinion. Like, it just shows the sensitive world that we live in. But Either way, I hope that we get an extended version of this song. The version that we got in Sao Paulo, which remember was really well received and people were really excited for. And then when the single dropped, people didn't like it. So there is potential there. He just needs to put out the extended version and not polish it as much as the single.
Another Odyssey. I can't wait to see your face. We're dancing in the place.
So I hope he does do that. But yeah, we've got 3 songs there that were cut and still 22 tracks. When I saw this waking up on the Friday, I was really happy to see that we got on a long album. 1 hour and 20 minutes is more than I could have asked for. So track through track and just talk through, what my emotions were during this listening to this album. So we start with the title track, Wake Me Up. This was the song that I was most looking forward to that I knew about already, and it lived up to the expectation. I'm not going to act surprised. Like, it was as we expected it, as it was leaked. The intro was there, which I was happy about. I was happy that it was the full 5 minutes. So yeah, as an introduction track, it was outstanding. It's near 10 out of 10 for me. You've got, like I say, the intro to the song, and then you've got like the 80s pop sort of style that we've known The Weeknd do recently. He did it really well in this song. It's catchy. The only reason I maybe sound like I'm underselling this is because I listened to this a lot before the album came out. He put the live version out, people were editing it and making the actual song out of it. And that, again, I feel like with the show, kind of killed the hype on some of these songs where we already knew what they were going to be. If he would have dropped this album with the likes of Wake Me Up and Sao Paulo without me listening to them, I think that would have been even crazier. But this was still brilliant for me. There was such a high listening to this song because I'd finally gotten one of the tracks I knew was going to be the best or one of the best on the album. So I was already in a really good place. This song ends and then transitions pretty heavily into Cry For Me. The intro to this song is insane. The way it drops, the beat that comes in, and then as Abel starts singing, you get like that little, like, I don't know what it is, like a piano key or something. Honestly, I don't know what happened. I like shut down during this part of the song, the intro. My brain's just thinking, what is going on? This track is nuts. I'm still trying to calculate the first track, and then it goes straight into this one, and the chorus is brilliant. Cry For Me is one of the best songs on this album. This was a really good start. The only thing I'll say about this song that maybe makes it a little bit short of perfect is they could have done something towards the end. I think it went on a bit too long. I would say the last third of the song, they needed to switch it up, maybe add a feature in, or just have it as a short song because it packed a lot of power at the start, and I feel like it did kind of die towards the end. But that's the only criticism I have. It's a fantastic song. Those 2 songs are some of the most played I've got on the album. And then we go into our first interlude, which is I Can't Fucking Sing, which is just a clip of him after he lost his voice at one of his shows. This kind of starts to make sense of what the theme of the album is, and it's more his career and how he's sacrificing himself to do all these shows and put the songs out, even though he necessarily doesn't want to anymore, and it's not doing him any good personally. So you can kind of get a sense of that from that clip. Anyway, this transitions into Sao Paulo, which is a nut song. A lot of people are giving this stick. I'm finding it's a lot of the rap fans that are putting this song down low. The people that are saying this is the worst song are saying like Timeless and all the songs in the middle of the album are the best. So I am going to take it with a pinch of salt because everyone's got different taste. I think Sao Paulo is one of the best songs on the album. The only reason it didn't hit as hard for me in the album is just because I've listened to it so much. Again, if this album had dropped and I'd listened to nothing, I'd have been absolutely like dumbfounded at the first, I guess, 3 tracks or like the first 3 proper tracks in the album. I wouldn't have known what was going on. Sao Paulo's a great song. I'm not going to take any slander. I get that it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's a risk, to do a different style, the Brazilian funk. But I respect Abel even more for that. The fact that he goes into so many genres and yet he pulls it off. This is just another one ticked off. I'm struggling to think what he can't do. And yeah, the production on this song is amazing. And then we get the transition track of Until With Skin and Bones, which is just a mad ending to Sao Paulo, and then it just goes into the next song, which is Baptized in Fear. He does slow it down a little bit for this track, which I get in a long album. You need to have those tracks that kind of bring you back down and chill you out a bit. It can't all be chaos. So Baptized in Fear is a nice personal song, and the production's pretty clean on it. His voice is great. It's again going into his own like personal struggles, and it goes to the theme of the album. So yeah, it's a good song. It's not. I don't like it as much as the first three, but I understand its place in the album, and I think it's definitely one to listen to. So, "Baptized in Fear" is a good song. I'm happy that he added that one as well. But the best part of this song is how it built up towards the end and it went straight into Open Heart. Open Hearts is a song I knew about, but after the Sao Paulo show, I didn't want to ruin any more for me going into this album. So this song I'd not heard at all. And going into this, the transition was unreal. And I love this song. I think this might be the best song on the album, genuinely. I thought Wake Me Up and Sao Paulo would take some beating, but then you had Cry for Me, and this song is just like perfection. Like in terms of modern pop, like the production, Abel's voice, the how catchy it is. It has a little bit of like electronic elements in it. You know, for someone who likes EDM music, it had a little bit of that. It had everything. This song's pretty much perfect. I can't fault it at all, to be honest. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. I feel like they put this in at the right time. I can't fault it. And at this point in the album, I am genuinely questioning whether this could be his best project. This is the peak. I will say this first third of the album, it is the peak, but it's the rest of the album is fantastic. I will just give a spoiler, but this is the best part up to this point at the end of Open Hearts. The track list does change a little bit. It goes into a bit more of storytelling, but also a little bit more of like a rap style. The production sounds on some of the songs like old school, like Kanye West music from like the 2000s, which isn't really a bad thing, but I do think the middle third of the album doesn't quite hit home as much, but maybe it's just personal taste. But the next track we get is Opening Night, which is more of a transition track again. It's there for to transition one part of the album to another. So I can't really say too much about Opening Night. It's fine. Reflections Laughing is a track that I think is more for the album than just listening to on its own. It's quite slow how Abel's singing, and then you get a little bit in the middle of Florence Welch basically playing the role of, I guess, his girlfriend or girl he's seeing on the phone. And then Travis Scott comes in at the end with a slower rap verse, but it gets more and more distorted as the track goes on. This song, I feel like it went on a little bit long, if I'm being honest, like 5 minutes after a transition track. I think it has its place in the album to an extent because it's there for this. It's good for the story and the immersion and the cinematic value, but I'm not gonna act like I'm gonna go back to this track. If I listen to the album again, I'm not gonna skip it because I'll happily listen to the album in its entirety. It's not unlistenable, but I don't get how people are saying it's the better tracks on the album. I don't understand it. Just because Travis Scott dropped a verse on it, people think it's like really good. It's fine, but I think it really could have been shortened. I feel like that would have probably up the value of the album, but I'm not complaining too much. Then we got Enjoy the Show, which is a bit more of a chilled vibe. Future features on this as well, but again, it's a slower verse. And Enjoy the Show is it's a decent song. Again, I'm not gonna act like it's one of the ones I go back to. It's just a decent track. I hold the Weekend up to such a high standard now, so anything below like an 8 or 9 out of 10 is like considered a lower track on the album. So I don't want it to seem like criticism, but yeah, at this point in the album, I'm kind of thinking, all right, it's getting a bit slow. Like I want to go back to what we had at the start of the album. That's more like what I was enjoying. The next track, Giving Up on Me, definitely brings that back in. It's still like rap and trap kind of styled, but there's a bit more like kick to it. We get some really good vocals in the main part of the song. Again, it goes on a little bit long in the second part. There's a sample in the middle. Again, very like 2000s Kanye sort of style. And then we get a bit of singing as if it's in like a lounge with a piano in the background. Again, I'm not gonna say it's bad vocals, bad lyrics, anything like that. I just feel like it went on a little bit, and especially after the last couple of tracks, I feel like this part of the album, I was just hoping that he switched up the tracks at this point. I thought we've had a few relaxed ones. I want to get more tracks with energy at this point. And then we get I Can't Wait to Get There. This, again, it's not a bad song. It's a decent song. And I think Abel rapping, a lot of people will enjoy that. And I think he does it very well. It shows how diverse he is as an artist. But I don't like the sample, if I'm being honest. I think with all these samples, they tried something different and they did something that would be enjoyed more by the rap fans that he has, which I appreciate. He's trying to reach out to as many different music fans as he possibly can, and this section of the album, this is for a particular part of his fan base. But I just don't think all these samples were particularly necessary when you've got someone who can put in brilliant ad libs by himself. Although his parts were good, again, this song, I'm trying to look for something a bit more like a bit with a bit more energy. But that's just my personal taste. I'm not saying it's bad or unlistenable. It was probably the third in the album that was my least favorite, but I've got no issues with it in a 22 track album. I get that it's there for some people that might enjoy that a bit more. Then we go into Timeless, which when the single first came out, I wasn't that big on the track, but as time's gone on, it has grown on me, and I like it. I think Playboy Carti provides maybe the best feature on this album. It's definitely up there. His part on this song is very good, how he opens it, and the chorus is pretty good. Yeah, this song, I wouldn't say it's one of the best songs on the album, but it's definitely an 8 out of 10 or so for sure. I can't really fault it too much. So yeah, I've got no complaints about this. And then in Niagara Falls, we get kind of a similar style again with the sample and rap kind of beat. But I do like this song. It's probably my favourite song from this part of the album. I feel like, I don't know, it just fits Abel a bit more. There's a bit more of a beat to it, even though it's quite a chilled out tune. So yeah, I like Niagara Falls. I think it's a nice album track to have in there, and I'm not seeing many people talk about it, so I'll just give it its credit now. Then we go into Take Me Back to LA. At this part, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go into the next part of the album, which is going to be a bit more reflective and a bit more like the pop style that I and a lot of people most enjoy with The Weeknd's music. Take Me Back to LA obviously was a song that was played in Sao Paulo. We already knew about it. It was even leaked in the early stages of him making the song years ago. It's a good song. Again, it's not like one of the best on the album, but it's like in the top half. I've got no issue with it at all. It's quite a soft song, but it's reflective. It's got decent lyrics. It's got a nice tune to it. It's a nice song to just put on if you're having a chill. So yeah, I like Take Me Back to LA. Then we get Big Sleep, and you know the album getting towards the end when the big triumphant songs like Big Sleep are coming on. This is a really powerful song. This is where Abel uses his vocals the best. He's showing how much ability he has in that sense. Big Sleep's a really good song. I think it's very good for the album. It fits in well towards the end where you are getting to that big finale. So yeah, I think this is a good song. Then we get a bit more of a chilled, poppy kind of song, which is Give Me Mercy. A nice song to put on. This is the sort of smooth song that we did need to break up some of the more powerful tracks towards the end of the album. So yeah, I really like Give Me Mercy. It's a nice chilled out track again. Then we go into Drive, which is another chilled out pop song. I'll be honest, even though this is the kind of style that I like, I feel like this is the one song that added the least to the album. Even though it's not my personal least favourite song on the album, it's in the style that I like, but I don't think lyrically it really did much about the story. I think it was a bit of a forgettable track, to be honest with you. That being said, I'll happily put it on and listen to it. It's not my least favourite track personally, but I can understand why not many people are talking about this one. But with this album, honestly, the more the merrier. I just want as many songs from The Weeknd before. before he retires from this character that he has. So yeah, I think this song was probably one for the deluxe version of the album. I think you could have put him Runaway over this song, and I think the album probably would have been elevated a little bit more, and it would have made more sense for telling the story. But again, I can't complain too much. It's a decent song to listen to. Then we get The Abyss, which I would say after that first third of the album, which I've been raving about, I think The Abyss is probably the best song after that part. This was one of the ones that I was looking forward to after a lot of it got already leaked. Initially, people thought this song was going to be called Regular. I've got no idea where that idea came from. But obviously, we get the introduction and then the Hold My Heart part of the song, which we already knew it was used in one of the trailers. It was as good as it was in the trailers. It's really powerful by the time we get to the Hold My Heart part. You know, the introduction's nice and clean as well. So I really like this song. This was good enough as it was, but the Weeknd just thought, nah, I'll just chuck in Lana Del Rey's a feature as well and just complete it. Obviously, she's someone that a lot of people wanted to see feature on this album, and she added that little bit of extra spark to the song as it came to the end. Yeah, this is a great song, especially towards the end of the album. So big thumbs up for The Abyss. And then we got Red Terror, which we've since got a music video for. So this is obviously quite a significant track in this story that Abel's telling. And this sort of focuses more on what a lot of us think is a story of his mom escaping a war torn country and being able to get to safety and then raise Abel. This song gives me the same kind of vibes as Big Sleep in how it's got those powerful vocals in the main part of the song. I think this is a great song again. With the beat at times it's something different that we've not really heard from Abel. So yeah, this is a great song in my opinion. And in terms of building up a big finale to the album, this song's underrated, I think. And then Without a Warning was a song that we thought was going to be called The Crowd from the Sao Paulo show. But again, I think lyrically it's a significant song for the album because it really is telling how he feels about his career and going forward, why he doesn't want to do it anymore, and his relationship with his fans. I think for that element, it's a good song and it's good to listen to as well. It's more of a personal one for him. As is Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is a bit more chilled out. Obviously, it's just a reflective track, and I think it closes his story up really well. I think in these two tracks, and I appreciate what they add to the album. I think it was a really good way of him to end this discography of his. So yeah, I really can't complain at all about the album. It perfect? No, but 22 songs, you're not going to get perfect. It's pretty close to perfect, in all fairness. And yeah, I think this has really got a chance of getting album of the year in a lot of people's eyes. Not to mention as well, the final track, if you listen back to it, it does transition into High for This, which is on his first mixtape of House of Balloons, which is just another added thing that just elevates this project and the meaning of it. So yeah, I think in terms of expectations, it was about the level that I was expecting overall. Although a lot of the songs were more experimental and they weren't what I expected, I think it was very diverse and it showed off how many different genres the Weeknd can make really good songs in. I feel like every one of his last albums has a song in Hurry Up Tomorrow that would fit in those individually, if that makes sense. So I feel like he really does sum up his entire career really well with this project. And out of all the songs, I would say my top five, let's start from five, would be The Abyss. I'd say my fourth favourite song on this album is probably Cry for Me. Third, Sao Paulo. Second, probably Open Heart. And then Wake Me Up is first, but they're pretty interchangeable. And yeah, hopefully we get some extra songs on the deluxe. Like, the more we can get, the better at this point. I know we are due for a new song, I think Pharrell's involved in that we haven't heard before, and then I think like Runaway is going to be included. I hope that we get an extended version of Dancing in the Flames, but I'm not sure that we are going to get it. And In Heaven, everything is fine. That would be nice to get as well. But Yeah, we'll just see what else we get. We'll definitely get a deluxe version. Hopefully, it's more than just a couple of songs. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the album, where it ranks amongst his other projects. I won't give that away yet as to where I think it ranks amongst his other albums. That is a video I'll do in a couple of months. Is rank everything that the Weeknd has put out. That is something I want to do. But once I've gotten used to the album and all the hype has settled down, I'll look at doing that. And anything that you agree with or disagree with what I've said, it is just my opinion at the end of the day. But if you enjoyed the video, drop me a like, check out my other videos, and subscribe as well. That would be fantastic. So yeah, thank you for watching the video.